Thank you all for joining. Today is once again our healthy living tips, and we wanted to talk about preventing chronic disease, and that's more so from a nutritional perspective and what we can do for our bodies, right? My name is Anuschka Alborzian. I'm an empowerment health coach and energy healer.
And I'm Dr. Rachael Meir, a clinical and health psychologist and general health and wellness advocate. I'm very excited to talk about this because I always think that it's much easier to prevent than try to treat after the fact.
Absolutely.
And I love it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Same. It's especially both of us having gone through some major health stuff that we would not wish upon anyone. Right. That in itself has made me, and I know you as well, just super passionate to really work with the prevention side, right? And don't wait until you hit rock bottom where the bills will skyrocket. Yeah. I definitely experienced that, and it really is. They say like illness, like the cost for illness is so much more than it is to get healthy,
right? Absolutely. And so many people think it's easier just to pop a pill or take a prescription when they have a symptom than it is to exercise or to eat right or to sleep or to manage stress. But I really, truly believe strongly and love to show people how to make it a lifestyle that doesn't feel like a burden or that it's overwhelming or that it's hard, but that is something that is fun and exciting. And as you feel good and recognize the control that you can have on your body and on the outcomes, that it's something people want to naturally adapt into their own lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's, I always hear, oh, it's so much more difficult during holidays and being around people that have, it goes like, well, with COVID, it's a little bit different. But there are going to be some people that are going to be having smaller gatherings, and it makes it difficult because sometimes there's a lot of yummy food around, right? And it's okay to treat yourself every so often. I'm all about the 80-20 lifestyle. We've had lives on this before, right? And it really is about, well, what can you actually feed your body 80% of the time that actually is great for your body and has your body thrive. And then you still get to have those treats and you don't have to restrict yourself. And that to me is everything, right?
Right. And when you really think about that, because what causes illness and what causes disease? Toxicity, sugar, all of the things that if your body doesn't have the vitamins and minerals and nutrients that it needs to have all of the cell processes happen, all of the chemistry in your body working appropriately. And so if you're not feeding your body, if you're not giving it the fuel that it needs, then it's going to start to decompensate. It's going to start to break down. And that's why you see things like autoimmune conditions and diabetes and cancers and other things that are so much more prevalent than they used to be because people aren't taking care of themselves. They're very sedentary. They sit all day a lot of the time. Even if you exercise, maybe 1 hour a day, if that's something you incorporate into your life, but then the rest of the time, are you sitting at a desk? Are you sitting in front of the TV? Are you sitting in your car? And then what are you feeding your body? Are you feeding your body fast food or junk food or high carbohydrates or lots of alcohol? Right. And we wonder why there are so many problems today. And we can readdress that and look at giving our bodies good, healthy produce and organic and non-GMO and low sugar, and we get up and we move. So many things can be different.
Absolutely. And I get that for some it can be difficult. They always a lot of times will say, oh my gosh, like that takes so much work to meal prep or go find there depending on where you live, you might not have the healthiest options when it comes to restaurants, but then again, that's why we have great products at Isogenics, for instance, that makes it convenient to pour that nutrition in your body. And it's alkaline, by the way, which to me, that's huge. I get alkaline water every 2-3 days at 10.0. Like that's the only water I drink. And because that, again, when you actually feed your body alkaline foods, then that in itself is a prevention for any disease, really. Because what happens with the body when you're eating crappy food, which for the most part is acidic, you're actually allowing more disease to thrive.
Right.
Disease, cancers, all of it thrives in an acidic environment. So this is another key factor when it comes to preventing chronic disease. It's getting as much alkaline food in your body as possible, and having that be the first thing you put in your body. If you are going to, for instance, have like a chocolate cake, have something alkaline first, right? And then you can, to balance it out.
Right, right. And looking at things that are highly inflammatory, again, sugar being one of the most toxic, and alcohol for some people, gluten and dairy and soy are in so many products, and especially processed products, that, you know, what I love about Isogenics is taking out almost all of those types of, pretty much, I think all of the entire inflammatory line of products, so that your body, again, helps to work the way it should, thrive the way it should, without increased inflammation. Again, so many diseases are related to high levels of inflammation in the body. So when you're making it an alkaline environment and you're reducing that inflammation and you're giving it all of the strong vitamins, minerals, and nutrients so that it can operate the way that it was intended to operate, you know, we're never going to claim to diagnose, treat, or cure any illness by using Isogenics products. However, if you look at chronic disease and chronic illness in general, the number one thing doctors are going to tell you to do is eat a healthier diet, get more exercise, watch how many things you're putting in your body that are causing
lower stress levels, right?
Lower stress levels, which is huge with Isogenics.
Yeah, that's a big part of it.
That I love, right, is the ionics and all the adaptogens and the products. That the stress is there. All of us are in a time right now, this pandemic and COVID and everything that's going on in our world. You can't get rid of the stress, but you can learn and teach the body how to mitigate that stress response, how to cope with the stress. Absolutely. Which comes from nutrition, it comes from our mindset, which we've talked a lot about. It comes from exercise and being able to take control and actively manage what could come in the future. I think that's exciting, personally.
And just to add to that, because there are people out there that may be like, no, I don't stress at all. Well, just so you know, when you are working out, that is a stress on the body. You may not be mentally stressing, you may not be aware of the stress, but if you are out there doing some vigorous workouts, you are putting stress on the body itself, which then releases that cortisol, right? And that can cause the inflammation and cause all that sticky fat and whatnot. And which brings me to actually another really huge way of prevention when it comes to chronic disease is intermittent fasting. That's actually been, there's science behind this, right? Not to say, like, again, this when we talk about Isogenics, there is no cure or treatment or anything, but there are studies around intermittent fasting. And that to me is amazing when it comes to, I mean, I remember my naturopath doctor, he actually wrote a book, and in that he was actually talking about how when you do a 72-hour, this is like more around cancer, for instance, when you do a 72-hour intermittent fast, you actually will kill off cancer cells. It's just it.
You're starving them.
You're starving. Yeah. Right, so they cannot survive. And so what I love about Isogenics is it's a supported intermittent fast. So it allows me to do it, but not completely starve myself, right? And it feels great. I mean, I always will say the second day is so much easier. It's unbelievable. And I have so much more energy. So my goal always is to hit at least 36 hours. That's my personal way of doing it. And there's various ways of doing that intermittent fast, which is a huge part of prevention when it comes to chronic disease.
Absolutely. And when I first started Isogenics over 7 years ago, I did it honestly for the weight loss. And I had tried for many, many years to lose weight. And I had heard about this and I started it and I started the journey and I had great success with the weight loss. But over time, and when my dad was diagnosed with Parkinson's, I started to learn a lot more about brain health and gut health. And when you look at some of the studies, again, just intermittent fasting in general, I'm not talking necessarily Isogenics, I totally agree with you. Isogenics makes the process of doing intermittent fasting significantly easier, in my opinion. But the benefit now way beyond weight loss. Weight loss, it absolutely helps me to maintain my weight, and it has for 7 years, where I can live life 80-20, not even have to blink an eye and worry about my weight anymore. But I'm so concerned about that prevention standpoint now of my brain health and my gut health and all the things that I know potentially genetically may be predisposition for me, but I can also take an active approach to managing potentially that long-term consequence that I've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is taking conscious choices on a regular basis. And I know for some people, I mean, I've had many clients where it's a struggle to do the 80-20 even. And it's like, it really is as easy as saying, hey, you know what? I am going to eat healthy 7 or 6 days a week, and I'll make Saturdays or I'll make Sundays my treat day. Right? Because that in itself, when you do the calculation, is pretty much 85% of the time you're going to be healthy. And if you want to treat yourself, do that. Or you split that up, right? Like you can split it up in ways. For instance, with me, like it's become second nature, right? But what I'll do is if I'm going somewhere and they have chocolate cake or whatever that looks like, I'm like, I'll have a bite. Literally, I'll have like a tiny sliver just to try it, maybe a bite or two. And that's it. I'm not restricting myself, but I'm also being health conscious. And it's to the point where people actually around me may offer chips, for instance, to other people, but they won't offer it to me. They're like, oh, Anuschka won't eat that. So when you set it up that way, then it becomes even easier in your life.
And I know for both of us, it's become such a shift in not thinking about what we can't have, but what we're doing by making the choices that we want to for the longevity of our health, and knowing that we want to be able to have this optimal life for as long as possible, doing things with the energy that we have and the physical mobility that we have. And so choosing the healthier version rather than feeling like we're not getting something makes it also so much easier.
Oh yeah, that's the mindset piece. And it really is, when you feel like you can't have something. I mean, look at us as kids, right? You want it more. It's like the more you say don't do something, the more you want to do it. It's just that rebellious ego part of us. So it's more like looking at it as like, hey, I want to be healthy and in the process prevent any chronic disease from occurring, right?
Right. So. And the other piece too that I know we've talked about in previous lives, but to just refresh again, because I really didn't get this concept. And before I started Isagenix, I thought I was doing the 80-20. I thought I was eating healthy, and I was watching, everything I put in my body, and I was reading the labels, and yet I still didn't feel good. And when I started Isagenix, to get the education and the realization of just how much our current food supply is lacking, the soil depletion, the way that we process and grow foods, all of the GMOs, non-organic, the amount of nutrients in one apple. You have to eat 9 apples to get the same. You have to eat 43 bowls of spinach to equal 1 bowl of spinach from back in the day when there actually was
from the 50s, when Popeye was around. When Popeye and the spinach, right? It's like that doesn't work anymore because
if you're out there saying I eat healthy, I don't need this, and check it and just try and do the comparison test, because that day when I woke up with like energy through the roof and sleeping like a baby, I said, okay, there's something different about it.
Yeah, and I remember when I would on my second cleanse day ever, the first time I ever did it, I remember I called Rachael and I was like, what is in this stuff? Are there drugs in here? Because I've never felt this much energy. I'm like jumping off walls, but in like a really good way, not like jittery or anything like that.
No,
where some people get with coffee. And by the way, speaking of coffee, like that's something else. A lot of people it's their go-to, right? And coffee is great, but look for something that is more on the healthy side. For the most part, most coffees are acidic. So we talked about the acidic environment, right? Well, when you look at certain coffees, like I love the fact that Isagenix coffees has the coconut oil extract, it's like made with coconut oil and green tea extract, which they've made it alkaline. And so for me, it's like if I'm gonna have coffee, either I have this organic instant mix that I use if I want to be quick. Otherwise, that's the only other coffee I'll have, because I'm like, I want to keep my body alkaline. Like that's always one of the things that I aim for. So that's like,
and of course, free of all the pesticides and herbicides. With so many coffees have so many pollutants in it. So yeah. For sure.
So that was really the main key for today, was to really just have people start looking at their health really from a different lens. And it's not always about, oh, I can't have a food. It's really about, how can I be healthy and still have those treat meals, right?
Absolutely.
And Isogenics makes it that much easier. So
so easy. And you don't have to go to the grocery store. Get it delivered right to your house. So in these days and ages, it's perfect.
Especially these days, right? Yeah.
Right.
So,
yeah.
So yeah, for anybody that wants to hear more, is curious to hear more, this is a great time. I know with the holiday season and presents and everything, sometimes people look at it as like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can afford it. And if you look at it from a, again, different lens, you're reallocating money. So instead of purchasing food, you're actually replacing it with these meal replacements that are amazing. And on top of it, what a beautiful gift to give yourself, the gift of health, or to others, right? So that to me in itself is a huge advantage point. And I sometimes go back and I'm like, gosh, I wish I would have known about this when it first came out.
I started saving money. My grocery bill went down like 50 or 60%. I wasn't throwing away old expired things that I wasn't eating. Oh, I have absolutely. And I would pay 10 times as much for how good I feel and knowing what I'm doing to my body anyways. But it's not good. I think the shakes break down to something like $3.50 a shake.
$3.50 or something, totally.
You can't eat that cheap at Taco Bell.
No, gosh. And it's like, and especially with, since I've gone organic for the most part, like it's not cheap, groceries or eating out for that matter. It's like, if I want to eat a salad out, I swear to you, it's at least $15. And that's without like meat.
Right.
And you add meat, then it goes up 20 plus.
Right.
So really, when you look at it that way, and then one other thing I want to add, because you mentioned process, and it's like people have like this whole thing about process, and I know we've talked about this before. I mean, maybe we need to actually have a live about this, but there really is a difference when you are talking about processed food. I always say, do you use turmeric powders or do you use garlic powder? Because those have been processed. Do you use essential oils? Because those have been processed. And the process is they've taken out the best parts of it and put it in a condensed form. And so when you look at it that way, I mean, it's great that it's processed that way, right? So it really is like a mind play, right?
I like to think of it as nutritional engineering.
Yeah, there you go. I like that.
Engineered it to give us exactly that, the best stuff. And that's very different than putting together a bunch of chemical, man-made stuff that has no nutritional value.
Yeah, like processed foods in cans.
Exactly.
So thank you all for joining. I'm not seeing any questions here, but I did see quite a bit of you join us today. So thank you all for joining us. And if you are looking to take your health and well-being to the next level, reach out to us, either of us, and we'd love to support you.
Awesome. Thanks so much, guys.
Bye.